Listen, we only get one shot at this.
Why not live life on our own terms? Hey everyone, it's Tom Karadza, and on this episode of the Your Life, Your Terms show, we sit down with Greg Kowalczyk and Brian Zammit to get an update on everything Amazon and e-commerce. These guys, if you've been listening to this podcast for any length of time, you will know they came on and shared their journey as they were just getting started. They were starting to do tours to China with other people who were building Amazon businesses, searching out factories and products and sourcing stuff over there. They were actually helping people out of the Rockstar office. They actually do a training class here for Rockstar Inner Circle members about building an Amazon business. And they've kept that going, even though their businesses have grown and their time has really gotten even more precious than it was before. They have honored that and kept that going. So we're very appreciative that they do that. And on this episode of the podcast, we get a really great update because they haven't been on for a little while and their businesses have grown. So now they have all kinds of other wonderful new updates for us that go beyond starting and building an Amazon business to growing and maintaining and fighting some of the battles that we all fight as business owners. And they give us an update on pirates. I had no idea how Amazon listings work and how they can be pirated, even if it's your own listing on Amazon, who owns that listing, how those things operate. So we dive into that right at the beginning and we work our way through all different wonderful things, including inventory and sourcing product and pricing strategies and Amazon's future and the whole bit. And it's really why I feel so grateful, both Nick and I do, to be able to do this podcast and work with Rockstar Inner Circle members the way we do, because we get to cross paths with these wonderful investors who are also doing other things in their lives that they then share with us. And we get to share as a group with you if you're listening to this podcast through training classes to Rockstar Inner Circle members. We just feel very fortunate that it's a group of like-minded Canadians coming together through some of the things here, and we get to share all our knowledge together. So I feel really as a group, we can help each other live our own lives on our own terms. And that's what this all is for us, running this podcast, running Rockstar Real Estate, the brokerage, running Rockstar Inner Circle, the membership that we have for real estate investors. All of it comes down to helping each of us live life on our own terms. It's why we talk about real estate the way we do. We believe real estate is a vehicle to help us navigate a monetary policy that is set up to reward asset owners and punish savers and income earners. And we don't agree with it. But if we can understand it and leverage something like real estate to help us navigate through that, we want to share that information with as many people as we can. We want to share things like the role of hard money in our savings. So things like gold and Bitcoin, for what they can do to our savings. We want to share business building strategies like we're doing on this particular episode with Greg and Brian. So thank you for listening. Thanks to Greg and Brian for doing this kind of stuff. It's really helping keep us fulfilled and give our lives a purpose. So thank you for everyone listening out there to this podcast. I mean that very sincerely. And if you are listening to this and you want to get started with us in the wacky, wonderful world of real estate investing here in the Greater Toronto and Southern Ontario Golden Horseshoe area, you can learn everything that we're doing from a free 90-minute training class that we do about once a month. And the URL to jump onto that, Nick and I give that class and we stick around afterwards to answer all kinds of questions. You can register for that at CanadianRealEstateTraining.com. That's www.CanadianRealEstateTraining.com. It's about a 90-minute class. Sometimes we go over that because we handle a lot of Q&A at the end, and we tackle everything that's on your mind. So we share a lot of the strategies that we're working with real estate investors here in the GTA and Golden Horseshoe. And then if you have questions at the end about interest rates, property types, cash flow, financing, whatever it may be, we tackle all your questions at the end as well. And you can register for a spot for the next class at the URL www.CanadianRealEstateTraining.com. That's it for the intro. Let's get on with the show.
Are you ready to live life on your terms? Is it time to take charge? Real estate, business building, the economy, health and nutrition, and more. It's the Your Life, Your Term Show with Tom and Nick Karadza. Are you ready? Let's go.
No, that was
We
quick.
are live. Yeah, we are live. You were already recording before I did the 3, 2, 1, weren't you? No? We are live with Greg Kowalczyk and Brian Zammit. And what was this thing? Can you tell me just about Amazon and how people is the wording hijacked? How do some businesses they get hijacked? You guys are immediately laughing. What is this when you're running an Amazon business and then somebody rips you off and like basically takes your product and recreates it? Is that what being hijacked is?
So there's a few different forms. I don't know. I can start off and you can fill in a lot of details there. But
Brian, come into the mic a little closer for me. Thank you.
So yeah, hijacking shows up in a bunch of different ways. One way that comes up a lot is another seller. Oftentimes we're seeing sellers from the Far East showing up on listings, and what they can do is they can take our product and actually sell it on our listing using Amazon shipping to do merchant fulfillment. So we use FBA. So Amazon will do the shipping for us.
Fulfillment by Amazon, FBA.
Yeah,
okay.
And that's a real linchpin to a lot of what we've done. Amazon just handles all the shipping, the returns, a lot of the basic customer service stuff. It's awesome stuff for us. They take about 30% of the sales price for that. And there's other ways. Once you scale, there's reasons to get away from that a little bit. But anyway, it's an awesome program.
And sorry, just on that, because I'm curious, they take 30% of gross?
Of your sale price, basically, yes.
So yeah, just the straight sale price, whatever's going through, they take 30% to do that.
Roughly. It's a little different in every category.
Okay. But at the beginning, it's worth it because of all the hassles and managing that if you're a small shop doing this. Okay.
For sure. Anyone who's sold anything knows that most of the questions coming in, they're always they're repetitive, and there's a lot of them. Like, has my product shipped yet? Why hasn't my product arrived yet? Someone stole my product off my doorstep. Like, just repeated basic things. They handle all of that, and you just handle the actual product questions. So it's an enormous help to get you going and rolling. There's still nothing like it. So that's normally how we're selling. What anyone can do right now with a Seller Central account, you can go to any listing that does FBA fulfillment. You can put your own listing, like version of the listing. Like Amazon only has one listing. You can be one of the sellers on that listing. You can actually use FBA to merchant fulfill the product yourself.
So they're putting up a different listing, but fulfilling with your product?
They're just another seller on the same listing. So Amazon's opposite to eBay. eBay, everyone's got their own.
The listing is what? When I'm looking at a listing, what am I looking at? Let's think I'm selling a barbecue flipper.
Yep.
Something that flips burgers on a barbecue. I'm looking at this thing and it's $19.99.
Yep.
That's the listing.
That's a listing. So, and a key part is that's Amazon's listing. Amazon owns it. Even if it's your flipper, your brand.
Really?
Amazon owns the listing. They can do whatever they want.
I thought that would be like my post or my listing on an Amazon site.
So that's eBay. So Amazon's like the opposite. So eBay, everyone's got their own listing, their own posting. You can have 50 different postings, different listings with the same flipper. The problem with that is it's chaotic. That's what they solved early on, is let's take out the chaos and make this simpler for people. You want this brand of flipper, there's one listing for it. And we'll automatically put the best seller in the buy box for you. We'll take care of it.
Oh my gosh.
That's what Amazon...
So then if it's your flipper, but they own the listing and they find somebody else who's going to sell your flipper for cheaper, they'll make them the buy button. But then what is that seller shipping? How did they get your product to fulfill?
So there's two different things that can happen. One is it's actually...
Listen to you guys. You guys are like wily veterans right here. Greg's just laughing under his breath. Rookie over there. Doesn't understand.
It's important. So that info right there is more than, I say, 90% of people will ever understand of Amazon already. That listing is not the person's who's selling.
End of podcast. We just ended the podcast. That's it.
So that's a big thing. And a lot of sellers, when they first start selling, they don't know. That's a big thing that we've got to let people know is like, that's not yours. So it's your pictures and your product, but that listing, it's not yours. That's really important. So what you can do, what can happen is someone can actually buy your product from you when they get a sale and use Amazon's FBA fulfillment to put the buyer's address, like the end user's address. So there's three parties here. There's your FBA product, there's the rogue seller, and there's the end user, the person actually buying it from home. The end user at home.
And they're just undercutting your price? That's how they're getting on the buy button?
So they can do a bunch of different things.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. I didn't realize how complicated it is. Okay.
But
that's one of them.
But that's one of them. And then the other one is you've got usually Asian sellers. Sometimes it's factories. Sometimes it's somebody with a deal in China with factories. They just go onto your listing and start selling a product that is very similar sometimes almost exactly the same, or sometimes totally different from yours. They just go on the listing and try to sell their whatever it is.
Come on.
Yeah.
But sorry, then when they hit the buy button there, so then they're fulfilling it, not using Amazon fulfillment, and then just stuffing their. How does Amazon even allow that?
Merchant fulfillment, so that they have to allow people to do their own shipping. Now, a lot of times,
But I'm not getting what I thought I was buying.
Yeah, so then you can complain later. But a lot of times, people just they might complain, but they don't return it.
Well, because sometimes I think this has happened to me actually. Now that you say it, I don't think I've really I've like kind of thought, oh, why is this thing crappier than I thought it was going to be? Because then also, then you leave a crap review.
Yes.
Yeah.
And on your good product.
But
this is all bullshit.
But these rogue sellers.
So the only way to use Amazon, no, of course they don't care because it's your review on your product with your brand name. So the only way to use Amazon is short term to get customers, and then pull them off of Amazon as fast as humanly possible. Or you're constantly fighting this battle.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Constantly.
Who's angrier out of you two? I'll get the angrier person to answer because Brian seems very level headed. Yeah, Greg's over here just saying, well, let me. Yeah.
No, this one is just a constant battle. Like I've been, because some of my products are really doing well.
You guys have built up. I haven't talked to you guys now. I think almost in this year. Like we're in November. I don't even have spoken to you this year with everything going on. But you guys have built up impressive businesses over the years. And I don't have the last updates, but I'm sure just by the way Greg's looking at me right here, I think it's been pretty good. But this is unintended pain that you have to suffer.
Yeah, that's just part of the business, dealing with hijackers and some other stuff. So that's what day by day exercise. You checking your listings and you finding out that there is somebody on your listing selling seemingly for the customer the same product. But
and then how do you find it? So it's your listing, but so are you able to see the buy orders go through because you first created the listing? Do you have some ownership type?
No, we have ownership because we are the brand registry. So we have the trademarks for our brand, and for to a certain extent we are protected by Amazon because we are the brand, and basically we are selling under our own brands. So as far as the Amazon is concerned, we are the manufacturers selling our own products. And if we don't allow anybody else selling the product, they supposed to kick them out. But because, like Brian said, the listings are Amazon's property, anybody else can actually go into the listing, list the product, and then it's up to us, to try to kick them out and prove to Amazon that they are not authorized.
Wait a second
seller.
here. Like you just said that Amazon, you're the brand owner, and Amazon gives you the responsibility or ownership or whatever language you were going to use to control that brand because you're the brand owner. But then at the same time, you're telling me they let somebody else take the order.
Yeah,
I still don't understand.
Many,
so I understand from Amazon's point of view. They're like, screw it. We'll just get the best deal to the customer. Whoever's going to sell it the cheapest. And that's where Amazon's coming from. Exactly. And we can all argue whether that's good or bad. I get there. But from the communication I'm hearing from you guys, it feels like Amazon's telling you something different. It feels like you have some control that you don't have.
There are two ways because
can you come a little closer?
There's many products that actually they have one product and are being sold by, let's say, 20 different sellers, and depends depends on the different factors, on your seller performance, on your price. Amazon is awarding those sellers the buy box. So whether it's a 50-50 split or a 10-10-10 to everybody, it's just automatically the algorithm is splitting the buy box between those sellers. But the brand name has to allow those sellers.
So can you turn that functionality off?
There is not really a button.
Really.
So then how are you allowing? You're not allowing.
Well,
Amazon's allowing. Because if you could turn it
right.
off.
Yes.
But then why do you keep using the language you have to allow? There's no allowing.
Yeah, there is no allowing.
Yeah, it's not really allowed. Okay. It's really the other side. We have to fight them off. It's more the other way. They're by default allowed. So you got to think about it this way, where Amazon's coming from. They want to always, all the time, no matter how big of a seller that you are, they always want to provide the best deal for the customer. They're always on the customer side, always. They will always do things for the customer.
But the customer might be getting a shit version of the product.
So what will happen is in time, they will fix it. I have complete confidence Amazon will fix it.
Brian, you're such a nice guy. Yeah, I can see. Me and Greg are the assholes of this bunch. You're the nice person.
It's their business. It's the volume that they have right now is overwhelming. I can't even imagine. I've worked on lots of large scale systems, computer systems, backends. I still can't even imagine the kind of volume and how they're managing this. So, a seller getting shut off, seemingly doing totally nothing wrong, is only because their algorithms are trying to weed out as much as possible and sometimes catch the good guys, anyone who's doing something even remotely not good for the customer. So they're catching sometimes this net is a little too wide. So they're trying hard, and they've made lots of improvements. I have to say that they've made a lot of changes with customer communication, for example. Some of the emails that were being sent out were getting out of hand. At first we were able to send as many messages as we wanted to customers after a sale. And then it was like, maybe you should only send 2 or 3. Amazon's wording started changing, and they often do this. They put wording into their legalese, say this is what the rule is, but we know from being sellers, they actually let it slip. They let it go.
I'm not really sure if they're going to change this. They're going to they are fighting.
I like this. Brian says the politically correct version, and we have Greg to come in.
They're fighting the hijackers since we started. So I see this already 6 years ago, and we've always been talking about hijackers. Right now more than ever, I think.
Okay, is it more than ever? So someone listening to this who still wants to get into business for themselves and use Amazon as a distribution network, because let's face it, you're going to want to tap into Amazon. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If for that person, there's still an opportunity here though, no?
Oh yeah, huge.
Because I think we're coming from the place of you guys have gone from just beginning. Because I remember talking to you guys when you were just starting. You guys are just beginning, where I feel like you're now established businesses on Amazon. Mm-hmm. And now you're bringing to the forefront regular established business constant pain points. So do you know, because being in business, Nick and I tell everyone, being in business is to be constantly assaulted by different problems, and now you guys have those, so this is great.
That's a perfect way to put it. And so I think there's a few. We were talking about this yesterday with a group, and I think there's a few factors.
A group? What group were you talking to? The group you guys do the training for?
Yeah.
Cool. So that's okay. We're going to talk about that because you're still running all of that. Everything with that, you're still doing.
We currently are, yeah.
You're probably over-delivering on that, and it's taking you a long time, and it's a lot of work.
Some people in that group have been unreal. We're like going from not knowing a thing to being 7-figure sellers. People, I think now at this point, after yesterday, I think most, if not all of them, are now either actually selling or just about to be selling. So anyway, it's pretty cool to see.
Do you realize what you're doing for people? Like, that's crazy that you're bringing people from doing not Amazon sales or e-commerce sales to doing it. Like, that's pretty cool, man. I'm telling you that because I can feel some pain from the hijacking stuff, and I just want you to take them out. That's really cool. Like, that's legacy shit.
There's more.
Greg's
reward.
not buying anything I'm saying right now. He's like, screw it, man. These hijackers.
I think maybe he heard enough from me about an hour ago. We were chatting, and I was saying, there's a couple of things I just realized the last few days. One is that I think the pandemic affected me more than I thought. I'm usually an introvert, but I think maybe the isolation was more than I thought would affect me. So that's one thing, and I like the human contact. And the group gave me some human contact, at least online. But the in-person meetings we were having were just. I think they energized me a lot more than I thought.
Time out. You guys are meeting in person with other humans?
No.
I'm ready to call whatever health authorities I need. Whoa, guys.
So before the pandemic.
Don't think you can start meeting with other humans, okay?
So
this is aggressive.
Every couple of months we were meeting up before the pandemic.
Before the pandemic.
Yeah, sorry. Good language. Good, smart use of language right there.
Now it's been like 9 months and we hadn't seen them. And people have asked us, we're like, can we do that? Like, maybe we'll meet outside. Like, the weather's turning. Like, do you want to sit outside for like 4 hours chatting?
Nick was at a mastermind at a park in Etobicoke.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just do it. But that's exactly the thought process. We're like, we got to meet up with people. And I think not meeting up with people doing similar things maybe affected me more than I thought. So that's one thing that I didn't expect. But there's a few other things that's happening right now with Amazon. So one is that like Greg's being modest. Some of his products are number 1, 2, 3, 4.
In the category?
So the sales...
In the major category.
Good for you,
main
man.
category.
I'm not surprised. I know the way Greg's brain works, and he's designed and built for this.
Anyone can look up some tools like Jungle Scout or Viral Launch and see what kind of numbers that is. So he's got a big target on his back.
This is some of Greg's brands?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's one thing. When you are at the very top for a major category and there is a lot of
everyone's
product.
chasing you.
That's right. So that's one. That's something that's different that wasn't necessarily the case a couple
Maybe
years ago.
better. It's longer term. It's going to be better, and I'll let you continue here. But longer term, it's better to be 4 or 5 in a category because then you don't have the bullets. But that on your the target's on your back. But then I guess maybe you're not making enough sales to make it worth either. But continue on your thought process there. Sorry.
So no, that's a great point. So most of my own products have not been the top sellers, but they don't get attacked. They just sell all the time, nice and easy, replenish, and they keep selling. I get a good amount of reviews, good sales, and I just do it again. Nice and slow and quiet.
You're not as good as Greg, but it's working out better for you.
Well,
it's a case where you don't want to be number one. I will show you not how to be number one.
and it's a slow and steady kind of thing. But there is enormous differences in sales between number 1 and 2, number 1 and 3. Huge. They're enormous. But being higher up in a category, more sales will let you do things like fight back better. So there's a balance. So if you're willing to fight back against people that have this target, that are targeting you, then that can work out if you can make that scale work. So we know that from years ago, it used to be supplements, for example. Supplements was the main category that was just insane competition, people spending multiple 6 figures a month in advertising just to keep up, just to keep their sales rolling, and always having giveaways, like every product having a get another product free coupon with it. People were just giving stuff away as fast as they could so that they can keep the sales rolling and keep this flywheel going on Amazon. But you need to get to a certain point where you can battle other people to do this. So that's at the very top end. It's not the same at spot 5, 6, 7, 8. It's not the same. So that's one thing. The other thing is the pandemic has changed things, I would say, a lot. I don't know if people woke up to online selling or they just figured out that whatever brick and mortar stuff they were doing, looking at, trying, or living on isn't going to work. 2-3 months, maybe. 5-6 months, probably not. 9 months, a year, and possibly going to be counting, going longer. It's like you can't keep doing what you were doing. You got to find a better way to do it. And so there's an influx of people going online, enormous influx, and money.
Because I don't think anyone really looked for toilet paper on Amazon before the pandemic. No, but how many people during the pandemic, especially at the beginning, when there was no freaking toilet paper anywhere, put toilet paper into Amazon's search box? Let's face it, a lot of people did for the first time ever.
Yeah.
So I think people did wake up to like, holy crap, I can buy Advil. I'm just making this up. I don't even know if this is true, but I can buy Advil or, toilet paper or, paper towel stuff I never thought I'd be buying online.
Yeah, just click, and it will show up into the...
There was a while at the beginning of the pandemic, I think the delivery guy was there every day at our house. There's an Amazon package. Carol's like, what are you buying? I'm like, don't worry about it. I got a lot of stuff I got to figure out here. I'm just taking care of the family. Don't you worry what's coming in these boxes.
Yeah, so I think, buying behavior changed. Sellers' behavior had to change along with it. So that's definitely happening. I think the inevitable move online just happened much faster, way faster than anyone expected. Amazon's stock price, their sales, record setting, that is just all part of it.
Wow. What did you learn about, then you said something interesting there about yourself, that you used to think you were an introvert, but this thing kind of changed your thinking. What else can you share with me about that?
So, I think I still am recharged with solitude or when I'm alone. So that's where I think maybe my thinking changed. It's not that I want to be alone. That maybe would be weird. It may be counter to the human experience, but I think I get my energy from reflection, like reading and thinking. That's where I get my energy, my recharging time. That's how I do it. But I still need human contact with people that are thinking and doing things that are similar to me. So like introverted with a need for the occasional playing the extrovert or having contact. I think that's probably
what scares the shit out of me is that with all the lockdowns that seem to be opening and closing down, how many people out there are not getting the social interaction that they need and suffering? And the reason is I think I'm a pretty resilient person. But when this first started and nobody was in our office other than Nick and myself, And we were making, at the beginning, no one really knew where the real estate market was going to head. We started getting some calls saying, "Are there blood in the streets? I'm ready to buy." Yeah. Like, well, are these property prices 30% now of what they were? And we were like, no, not really. Yeah, everyone needs a place to live. They're not leaving these homes.
Yeah.
No one's on the streets. They're in their homes. But I remember we were aggressively putting out videos and webinars at that time with like our lawyers and paralegal, and trying to share with Rockstar and our circle members, here's what we're seeing on the streets. We were trying to talk about like interest rates. We're trying to over deliver on the information, but because we weren't interacting with anybody, I remember probably 6 weeks in, Nick and I both started to, and I think both of us are pretty strong-minded and pretty, I would call, resourceful and resilient. And I don't mean that from an arrogant point of view. I just mean, I think, throw us a curveball and we're gonna go with it, right? Yeah. But I remember about 6 weeks in, one morning I came in and I put a longer YouTube video together. And it was the kind of video that you will usually get some comments like, "Oh, who's this guy? Just another person talking about the real estate market." Because I was trying to use data saying the supply and demand factors combined with the interest rate doesn't show me the fundamental reasons why the market's going to come down here. For these reasons, but that can be taken as a way of just saying, "Oh, here's another real estate guy saying the market's going to go up forever." So I was really expecting to just get slaughtered with that type of comment, but it's what I truly believed. I put that video and got a ton of views for us. It was one of our best, I think to this day, it's one of our highest viewed YouTube videos, because I think at that time everybody was clamoring for information. And I came in, it was early morning, I was by myself, Nick was in here, I sat in the back corner over here, I checked the video, and I never look at view counts or like comments or anything, but for whatever reason I was just I think I was exhausted from weeks of delivering content. I looked at it and it looked like there were some positive comments coming in, and I remember just sitting out taking a sigh, and I swear to God, I think a tear was coming from my eye. Like, it was such a all this emotion of just being alone, and even though Nick and I were working together, just feeling alone and trying to serve and put out good content and not getting the feedback back. And just one day it all just broke, and it was that moment. I checked the YouTube video for some reason, looked at the views, scanned at some comments, which I normally don't, because they just, it can set you off if somebody just rips you. Yep. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, maybe people do like some of this content. And I think, I just put my head down and I was getting like emotional over like nothing, a freaking YouTube video. And that's when my next thought then was like, holy shit, what's wrong with me? What's happening to me? Why am I freaking out about a YouTube video? I don't even really care about this stuff normally.
And so now do you see things coming back or bouncing back mentally with having at least
totally. Oh my gosh. I love it. I absolutely love it. But I'm worried for people that don't have, we have the office here. We can be socially distanced here. We can do everything that we want to be doing here. But for those people that don't have that, I'm concerned. And I'm concerned for this winter. Because I think this winter, weather gets darker here, everyone stays at home. And I'm concerned for those people who haven't got out during the summer because they've thought this pandemic is more than they can deal with. So they haven't gone out. And now they're going to ride out the winter too. Yep. I'm I'm concerned for their emotions throughout this. I'm way off track, Brian. So
no, totally.
I just want to share that I can relate with some of what you're going through.
I think this stuff fits in, and it definitely has an effect on day-to-day life, how we act and react to stuff. So it's completely related, for sure.
Crazy. So, okay. So what now? The hijacking thing's a thing that's just like ongoing. What about stats wise? What can you tell me you're seeing? Because Greg has these targets on his back. He's not going to share anything, but just in general, what kind of what's going on in the online world right now?
So online sales from people we've talked with directly are anywhere from double to many times regular sales year over year. So they're way up, as you might expect, because people didn't have many options. And once they figure out that, or once they were forced to go online, it looks like maybe they're sticking to it. This is something else that I guess it makes sense. It's like, I can just click a couple times and also set what's it called when you can do the automatic
auto-fulfill, like a subscription service.
So every 6 weeks it'll just show up and done. It's like, wow, that's pretty awesome. So I think people are figuring that out. And so these increases in sales have gone up. One stat I just saw yesterday was from the Los Angeles port, or portofla.org, I think it is, or portoflosangeles.org. Their most recent stat is that inbound shipments of containers, they're up 16%, which is about 69 or 67,000 TEUs, which is 20-foot containers. 67,000 containers more over same period last year. That's quite a bit.
Yeah, that's interesting because you would think that port is also supplying bricks and mortar retail. So it's really just a representation on people buying more shit in general.
It's a weird thing. But they stats.
Because we're looking at the economy pretty closely and we don't have a full V-shaped recovery here. We kind of bounced off the bottom, but we haven't come all the way up. But in some categories, we must be way over what people were spending before.
Oh, yeah,
that's
definitely.
right. That's exactly right.
Health and fitness is, I know few guys, from this space, and they basically 10x it.
10 times.
10 times.
Have you tried to find a kettlebell the last 6
Nick
months?
has been looking for a barbell. He finally got it. Nick was looking for a barbell. I think he was going to break into a gym somewhere and steal a barbell. That's where he was
They
getting.
probably sell it cheap right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? Because they were oversupplied now?
Well, no, I mean the gyms they were closed for a while.
They're closed. Yeah. Some gym owners we know were renting stuff out.
I know. Let's say I think when this it started in March, so the first month, like April, May, they basically went from $30,000 a day to $300. It's just a matter of it's just basically a days. And then,
but then you can't fulfill the inventory, so they got the problems.
Yeah, you cannot. The manufacturer is just basically overloaded. You cannot get your stuff, on time. Then the shipping and we had many problems during the summer for our logistics. So even myself, I had problems with logistics to supply the high demand of the items. In August we basically lost probably. We didn't lose. We spiked up with sales, but
you couldn't fulfill all the orders.
Yeah, if we would have probably 3 times that much inventory, we would have sold everything.
I ran out as well, but the other thing that happened with Amazon is their fulfillment centers stopped accepting inventory for anything that wasn't deemed critical because they were trying to stock up on medical type stuff and food type things. Household
I like
goods.
how we're kind of dismissing that. They were trying to stock up on stuff, the necessities of life, all that kind of stuff.
That pandemic stuff.
Yeah.
My products aren't really pandemic type products, so so they restricted how much they would allow in. So our products would sit on trucks for weeks, even months in some cases. Mine didn't sit for months, but weeks. They wouldn't even let them in. They just park outside basically, and there's pictures of a sea of containers lined up on trailers waiting to get into Amazon, but they're picking and choosing what goes in. So that was one thing. They wouldn't even let them in. And then more than that, the other thing that would happen is there's transfers between warehouses. It's a normal thing. They rejig inventory according to where sales are. It's smart internal system. The problem is then at the other side, the accepting warehouse, sometimes it looks like, at least for my own products, they didn't go in. They just went out of one and waited on the other side. So they didn't just go in. They didn't just transfer. They went out and waited. So then you have stock, but it's not available. It's sitting outside of their system. It's in this no man's land. And so that kind of thing
this
happened.
Weird shadow inventory that you have.
That's right. It happened a lot. And so sometimes I would see 2,000 units showed up. That's good. And I started selling. Oh, look, there's 0. That's unusual. Maybe I sold that much. Okay. Last night. Nope. Looks like there's 1,000 today. That's weird. Now there's 200. Now there's 0. You kidding?
Jeez.
Yeah. So their system went through a shock, for sure, a hard shock. But it seems like recently their FBA network has gotten much better. But at first they were affected like everyone
there's
else.
no one I doubt that Amazon. Sorry, I was going to say I have no doubt that Amazon's going to figure this out. If any company's going to figure this out, it's going to be Amazon figuring this out.
Yes, they have the ability, the money, the resources.
So is there any benefit for you guys getting inventory produced in North America so you can have shorter lag times, or some of the stuff you just can't get made here?
It hasn't made sense. I've tried.
Yeah.
I've tried a few times, the product. I hate to say it, the product wasn't as high quality.
Come on.
It was almost the same price, and it was only a couple of weeks shorter time to produce versus my regular.
Okay, so then what about this? What about changing your business so you go? So a principle in marketing that we always kind of live by or try to, not that we're perfect by any means, is that you want to move up the ladder so that the margin's better because you're serving more affluent customers who buy things in less quantity but with more margin, and those customers tend to not be as affected by the economy as much, and you are not chasing the race to the bottom on price because not everyone's competing up there. Is Amazon, I guess this is my way of asking, are you finding Amazon selling higher and higher price product? Because when I first started using Amazon, it's probably for product like $100 or less. Let's face it. Like that's the kind of world. But I could see myself now going on Amazon, and I don't know what the limit would be. If it's there and it's a brand I recognize, I could be buying from Amazon at a much, much higher price point than just 2 or 3 years ago, very comfortably. Are you seeing that evolution where the price points are moving up? Are people serving a different kind of customer base?
I think so.
Yeah, Amazon historically has always catered to a slightly higher end customer than, say, eBay, or just about any other regular online site. There's boutique sites that we'll leave them out for now, but Amazon's always catered to more affluent customer, the higher educated, more income. We have lots of stats on this kind of thing, so we know that their customer tends to be somebody who's able to and willing to spend more to save time, especially. They just want a decent product at a good price, at a reasonable price, delivered now.
Got it.
You'll pay for the time.
But there's got to be some value in building your brand up so that you can demand a higher and higher price. Correct?
Over time, yes.
Or am I just out to lunch here? Because this is such a volume game. It doesn't matter, Tom. Forget it. We're just doing volume, and we're going to make it on the volume. And what you're talking about doesn't make sense.
The idea of brands on Amazon is not the same as brands as you might think in the rest of the world. At least until you pull your product off Amazon. Once you pull your product off Amazon, then it's all the regular traffic conversion, trust, all the same things. Amazon does that, but within their ecosystem. Like, I've bought lots of things, and people all the time buy our products. So we're not like Nike or anything. No one knows us like that. But they look at the pictures, they look at the wording of our listing, and they look at the reviews of other customers and the videos, sometimes that the customers post if we don't, and they kind of sell themselves on it. It's like this automatic trust. Like
sure,
Amazon,
but once I bought the best, like right now in my barbecue, I have the best barbecue temperature reader I've ever purchased. Like I love this thing.
Okay.
And if that thing breaks, I want another one. So I'm pretty sure I bought that one off Amazon. But now I love that one so much.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to Google up. I'm just thinking what I'll do next. I'm probably going to Google it up. And if their website comes up, I know Amazon listing will probably be super high, let's face it. But just me being a fan of them, I'll probably go to their website at least and check it out. And if they had, all the checkouts are getting faster, especially with some of the Shopify type stores.
Yeah, for sure.
The checkout's tied into PayPal. They say your address is pretty easy to put in there. I could see myself buying something on Amazon, but then maybe the next time not buying on Amazon. Greg's looking at me very skeptically here.
No, that's natural progression.
I would see that. I would agree.
That's what we basically do. I would say,
come closer a little bit.
3 years ago, we were not really keen to start our own website and just going into a kind of a building our own brands. So we wanted to go and just a volume
and
game.
get the business flowing.
As much products as we can possibly go out, sell out there. Right now, it's a different game. We want to build our brand, so that's why we starting to build the Shopify stores. Like myself, we hire a few guys. We're building a team. We're building a structure to the team. All the parameters that everyone works in a certain specialty, and then we can we basically build for growth. And also not to put
I feel so happy hearing Greg explain this.
Great. Not to put all the eggs in one basket. It just Amazon is just like we learned today. Or we're learning every single or 2 weeks that they are able to shut you down in a matter of minutes, and you don't really know when you're gonna get back. With this, at least you can
have control.
You have control.
Because the Shopify store is your store.
The one big downside of this is just the traffic.
Yeah.
It's a completely different thing.
Of course.
Yeah, the conversions as well.
But wait,
so
when Amazon shuts you down, and I know we were talking just briefly about some of this stuff before we started recording, they don't give it. It's just like a social media kind of thing where it's like breach of terms of service.
Yeah.
Here's the section maybe.
Exactly.
And because I know when Nick and I have been kicked off Google AdWords, it's the most frustrating thing because you're like, I swear we did everything that we could possibly do.
Yep.
to explain that this real estate investment is the way it is, and they're like, nope, breach of service, and get rich quick. Sorry, you can't do this. And it's very, very frustrating when you think you've done everything and you can't communicate. You're just left to submit a form and then pray.
Yep.
I remember once that happened to us, and Nick and I had a friend who had a friend that was at Google in the AdWords department, and we were like making calls, please, can you look into our account? And we were getting feedback this broken telephone way, and it was like, when you just get a little bit of hope, you're like, okay, I think they're going to turn us back on, and then when they eventually turn you back on, you're like, thank you. And
then you think about
so Amazon's the same.
It's exactly the same thing. They will send you an email that you infringed on their terms of services, and here is the link to it. You have to find out, what basically you did.
And the terms of service like a mile long.
And so that's a good point. You have to figure out what you did.
You have to figure it out.
So you need to go through.
You're the problem. I know. I got it.
And so what they want you to do is out yourself for everything you could have possibly done.
Yeah. Yeah, got it. I guess that's a good way to say it. Yeah.
That's how it's set up. But on the one hand, I can see because of the volume, they have no other way to do this.
I get it.
Here's a form. Make sure you add the keywords in that we need so that we can enable you maybe automatically, and then we'll let you in maybe.
Are there? And I'm assuming there's consultants and businesses forming around just getting you back on Amazon,
lawyers,
because that's how it was.
Firms.
Google was that way for us. I think we hired a company that would be like, we specialize in getting you back on. So that kind of stuff exists.
There's a whole ecosystem, lawyers, and it's growing and substantial.
Oh, great. So that's just going to get nasty.
Even Amazon built, their own ecosystem, not really, for suspensions. But they have kind of they call strategic account managers that you have to pay for that.
It's not cheap.
It's a profit center for them.
Yeah, it's a profit center, but it gives you some sort of a
hope
that they will do this. That they will do this quicker. What we call them. They can go and maybe to another desk and ask another employee and all that stuff, find out what is actually going on.
You're paying to get some human contact.
Yeah.
So they used to be, I think they're what, $2,000 a month now. It used to be like $10,000 $10,000 a month. Yeah.
$10,000 a month.
Yeah. To get human contact.
And when you say a month, this means you have to do this for multiple months?
It was for at least 6 months. Yeah. Right now is $1,600 a month, and you have to commit for 3 months.
Wow.
No, $16 a month plus the percentage of your revenue.
Sorry, so $1,600 a month.
Yeah. Plus
a percentage of your revenue?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they made it cheap. They made the base cheaper, but now they're taking a percent of revenue.
So to get you back on, they're taking a percentage of your revenue.
Because seemingly they will also work with you on
to optimize your business,
business listings and all that stuff.
Yeah. Amazon is the most friendly predator I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
And it's Google, whose tagline used to be "Don't be evil," right?
I love that Google used to be "Don't be evil," and then they just got rid of that.
Just quietly.
You know what? I guess we will be evil, and you won't hear that slogan anymore.
So interesting stat. The first 5 years that Amazon started up, Google, they were Google's #1 customer.
Huh.
So you mentioned about searching earlier. The first listing, the first result is very likely on Google to be Amazon. Very likely because they're paying for it.
Has that changed now?
I'm sure. I don't think they're #1 anymore. They haven't been for a while, but they still spend a lot.
What's your opinion on Shopify? Is Shopify some sort of weird threat to Amazon? Because I look at it and I'm like, okay, Amazon, like everything goes through its moment, right? Like everything has its moment. None of us thought Microsoft would when Windows 95 came out, I think we all thought like, well, this is the whole, like nothing will beat Windows 95. Do you guys remember when the CN Tower had the Windows 95 banner? Yeah. Like when Windows 95 came out, it was like, wow. This is freaking amazing. But then everything has its moment and Microsoft evolves. And you remember like Outlook when Google came with their Gmail product and everyone's like, wow, what's that? And then it just starts to dominate and then you use it for business. Does Shopify pose some threat or it doesn't have the distribution that Amazon has built, so it just can't really take over what Amazon has done?
It's a good question.
I think I would probably compare this to electrical cars and Tesla. So Tesla right now is probably 5 years ahead of their competition. So is Amazon, the same thing. When you look at all the charts, and sales and the technology that they're involved with their business, they are much ahead, than the competition. Walmart is the next one. But even if you compare to Chinese, like Alibaba and, the Asian sellers, Amazon is still behind.
Alibaba by far, tech-wise and in terms of being progressive for serving customers is far ahead. But they have a different model. Alibaba doesn't do the distribution. That's the thing. They don't have the warehouses.
Yeah.
So JD.com does in Asia. They have their own delivery system.
JD.com is a big e-commerce site.
They're the competitor to Alibaba.
Oh,
it's
got
also
it. Okay.
Chinese.
Okay.
They're enormous. They're famous for their like white glove service, where somebody will literally show up in white gloves within a couple hours in the major cities in Asia, and deliver your product by hand with white gloves. Yeah.
With a silver platter too under the product?
Quite
Because
possibly.
that would be awesome.
If you buy enough, maybe if you buy...
Here is your toilet paper on a silver platter.
But if you look at their fulfillment centers, it's just it's almost without humans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
JD
it's run completely.
Have you been to the one in
automatically.
Brampton here?
Yeah.
When you do? Isn't that awesome? That tour.
Yeah.
If anyone's listening, I guess they don't do it anymore because of COVID. But you could. They had a public tour,
Yeah.
and Nick and I took it. We were the only two on the tour.
Oh, wow.
And they walked us through, and you see all the robots lifting up the shelves and bringing them to the pickers instead of the pickers going to the inventory. The inventory comes to them.
Yeah, Kiva robots.
Yeah, and
Pretty
did you hear
awesome.
about how Amazon was testing that out, where they were going to have little electric sparks on the human to tell them, like to cue them, like if the product's top right, you get spark. No, really, I swear I read this somewhere. I guess by your reaction, this is false. But I swear I read this somewhere.
I don't doubt anything.
Like if the product was coming at you and your next pick was like top right, you get a little spark like in your top right shoulders to cue you up there. Do you know what I mean? Like like to make you operate faster as the human.
It might be.
I know they're wearing their not laptops, but the tablets. The tablets are on their arms, so I guess it's just quicker to type in. So I know they're doing that. And I don't doubt they have some kind of haptic feedback thing coming, or maybe in use. I don't doubt it. Anything I can imagine, anything that would improve productivity, even a fraction of a percent, is significant.
Over millions of repetitions. So so you're thinking. So Greg, I guess then you're just thinking Amazon's just so far ahead that Shopify isn't a threat. But can Shopify be then? So Shopify will just continue to grow as e-commerce grows. Let's face it. But it's not a threat to Amazon in the way I'm looking at it. Shopify's something else. It'll evolve in a different way.
It's a good solution for small, medium, or even large sellers, retail sellers, to get into a e-commerce space. It's a really easy and cheap solution, But to start, but to operate and also to rank, to get successful is really, really hard comparing to Amazon.
So I think Shopify is just a tiny piece of the puzzle. That's the problem. That's what people don't realize. I think is that you can't compare them directly. So it looks like, it's online shopping. Amazon brings traffic.
Yeah.
That's their thing.
Which is a big part.
That is like, so you've got your listing. That's great.
Which is the hugest part.
You've got payment systems. That's awesome. There's lots of ways to do that. Shopify does that really well done. They're even putting in, I think they put in, or they're planning to put something $1 billion into developing their own fulfillment centers, or maybe into the billions.
I had read that. That's what made me think of them as a threat to Amazon.
That isn't even a rounding error in what Amazon's spending to upgrade their
existing
centers.
stuff.
So I think it's a great move, and I think it's an option that is needed. Really, you still need ways to build your own stuff, but it's not just Amazon's not just a listing service or a payment accepting service. They're a traffic service. They're a traffic system. That's really the big thing that they've got. They've got traffic, and then they've got the fulfillment, and the fulfillment is that network that they build with airports and airplanes. They've got a shipping license. I don't think they've made use of it yet, but they have a sea shipping license. And we've actually used their shipping services, but they're using other boats right now. But it is something we see them probably doing in the near future, is using their own boats. They have their own planes. They have their own delivery people. Boats are coming, quite likely. But
I'm not sure if I'm liking the world that I'm extrapolating out in my head right now.
one company or a couple companies
I'm
owning.
moving into a forest somewhere. Where I'm moving into a forest. I'm gonna roast some food. I'm gonna raise my own animals. I never thought I would speak this. I can't even say the word animals. Holy smokes.
I was just talking to someone a couple of days ago about that, like, just a hut on the beach, maybe some elk on the ridge, and we figure things out from there. And an internet connection to check in every once in a while. But like I just said, I think, there's a human contact element that you do need, and I'm saying that only half joking.
Okay, so then what's the threat? So there's no threat. Like, what about 3D printing? What about that? Can I 3D print it? And then is that a threat to not only your businesses, but a threat to Amazon, where it's like 3D printing gets so advanced because it's so far out there, none of us are going to think that's possible right now. By the way, you guys need to start your own podcast. Mm-hmm. You need to start your own podcast on all of this stuff. You know how many people you can help that are getting into business and build their own bit with all the pain points we've just discussed around Amazon? Fair enough. And that's because you guys have businesses, but let's face it, you guys are making money. I'm assuming that's safe to say from these businesses. Mm-hmm. So there is potential here, and the information is, we're going to talk about the way you help people, and we'll share all that URL, but a podcast where you two talking like this between this stuff is well needed. And I'm sure there's that kind of stuff out there, but you guys would do a great job at it. So let me be, if not the first, let me be on the bandwagon to tell you guys need your own podcast. A regular thing, man. Just do once, I don't know, twice a month. Talk about this kind of stuff. You know how much help you'll be to the people starting out? Right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like right now we see, with our own group, just how well they are doing. And, it's really nice to see, the progress of somebody else that starting from zero and now making a big difference.
Yeah, but a podcast could be a nice leader into that whole business as well. Just
there's so many podcasts, that.
But there's only one Greg Kowalchuk. There's only one Brian Zammit. There's only you guys have a unique voice in the noise.
Yeah, for sure. We'll have to see.
Yeah, okay. That's Greg's way of dismissively saying, Tom, I'm so busy. Get your idea off my table here. Okay, I don't know where I was before I talked about that. I was going to move into a forest, and I was thinking, no, but I think it was just that Amazon and the quantity of stuff going through Amazon is ultimately just never going to replace. So so then where do you see this evolve? Where do you see this all go next? Where do your businesses go next on Amazon? And you don't have to give me specifics, obviously, but like, how does this evolve? What do you see in the next 5 years? Because we've already reached the point, a few years ago, you guys were on here and saying, look at these charts. I remember Brian, look at this charts. Look where Amazon, and Greg, you too, because you've presented at different events that we look at where online business, and now online business has gotten to the point where you guys have predicted and surpassed where you guys have predicted sooner. And then all the pains that have come with that. But where does it go next? Does it just get more, does the bottlenecks that exist just get, smoothed out and it becomes a very efficient place?
It's a good question. I'll only say, I'll let you go in a sec. I just got to say, I absolutely agree. And I think there's going to be more bumps because it's still growing.
Oh, yeah,
it's still so early. That's another thing that's missing is we're still early in the process. We accelerated things a few months ago because the world locked down and everyone, many people went online, but it didn't all of a sudden make everything online. We're still mostly a brick and mortar society globally.
The inefficiencies exist even between currencies for you guys. US dollars, Canadian dollars. So I don't want to turn this particular conversation now into a Bitcoin conversation because I don't think that's the solution for this, but there is a solution here to get some sort of currency that is global, that is on a blockchain that can no, and I'm not because Bitcoin's too much of a store of value to really play this role. This is not Bitcoin's sweet spot. But there is something on the side of Bitcoin that could be created that Amazon, I'm assuming, could get big enough because most retailers could never accept anything other than local currency because they would be threatened by the government to say you're accepting Canadian dollars or you're off this. But when the US with PayPal now allowing some buying and selling of Bitcoin, I know you don't own your private keys for any hardcore Bitcoiners out there. I kind of get that, but I'm just thinking, as this evolves, I wonder if there's some sort of distributed currency that's used globally that would be one of the efficiencies that come to the table here.
So I think one hand, you've got currency and then you've got the plumbing. that moves currency around. And there was actually a service that was started by a guy that was in Quicken's executive team. I've actually used the service, and they use different cryptocurrencies as the plumbing to move your currency between currencies.
Between countries.
So locally, it's always local, but then they use the cryptocurrencies to do the transfer to bypass.
So you're not using the SWIFT system,
Exactly.
you're not wire transferring and all this kind of
Exactly.
stuff. Okay, so that'll get more efficient.
So
that's
starting.
already happening. Yeah. Yeah. No, I purposely said, so you, if you're listening to this, you don't know, Nick just opened the little secret passageway here and said, are you talking about Bitcoin again? I'm totally not talking about Bitcoin. I actually said Bitcoin is not proper for this usage. But
it probably will be in the future.
Maybe it's too much. It's too valuable. It's too valuable. Like, why would I sell my Bitcoin?
Yeah, but right now.
But there's other stuff to be used in this world.
Yeah.
Like for our business, it's just like, for what we do right now is just building an asset. Like up till this point, we built ourselves, a job. So basically we are...
Now you have to turn it into a business.
Yeah, right now we are too much consumed, and, the business cannot survive with our,
This is making me so happy. Welcome to... Yeah, this is the typical business evolution.
So like right now, for example, for us, what we're building a team. So right now we have a team of 13 people, including us, both myself and Patricia. And then we're building structures, we're building procedures, we're building, the systems. And once we do this, we can basically pull out us from the business, and
But the other side is
run.
beautiful, because it reminds me of, and for real estate investors, when you buy your first property, you get all excited and you're like, oh my gosh, I finally have this beautiful asset. It produces income like it's the best thing in the world. And Nick and I, still believe that to be true, that shelter is a need and it's this amazing asset. But then most real estate investors hit this point where you're like, crap, I can't buy any more of these things. And you go through 2, 3, 4, 5 year windows of letting the equity build up. And it's and all you have are expenses because you're fixing the flood. Greg, you're fixing different things in the house, and it's just expense. But what you don't realize you're doing with real estate as the years passes, you're building a more and more solid foundation. The mortgage is being paid down, the equity's building. Maybe if you're lucky enough, maybe you get some appreciation too, and then you come out the other side 5, 6, and 7 years later, which sounds like forever, especially when you're young. But you have equity, and you can start buying more properties, and then it snowballs a little bit more, and you come out the other end, and it's this beautiful thing. And it's the same with business building. What you've gone through is like getting your first property. Like, oh, I got this property, but now I really can't do anything else because I need to give it some time. And that time in your business is getting the procedures, getting the staff, getting the team, building the processes. But out the other end could be something really beautiful.
We haven't talked for a while about what's coming up the next few years. We used to talk about it quite a bit.
Because now you've been swamped with orders.
We always been talking. So our plan is just to do the exit, but we never sat down and actually planned this. What's going to happen, 5 years from now. What do we have to have or do in order to the plan to execute? It's completely different thing when you have a business like, let's say, 1 million in revenue, and having a business in 5 or 10 million in revenue. It's just a completely different team structure, procedures, SOPs, and everything. So that's why it's just for anyone out there, just to build a business for $1 million is not really, it is a big deal, but it's much easier to, than when you're building a business from 1 to 5.
Well, from 0 to 1, you can get away with like doing a lot of stuff yourself, even though it's chewing your time and you're frustrated. You can get away with it. Once you start building past $1 million, you just can't do it all anymore, and things are slipping and falling, and you're risking your brand reputation. And it is a different beast. You're really building your own business at that point. So
and then you're building a sellable asset, especially like right now. A lot of people, they don't really understand, for the e-commerce business, these are sellable assets, the same as you have a house or, another business or something. They're like hotcakes and for real good money.
For a while, when
So this is the future then, to get in, build the processes out, because no one's going to go through that pain. And once you have the processes built, you can flip that stream of cash flow that you've created for a multiple to someone else who's acquiring these streams and consolidating these streams together.
and there's bigger money coming in to buy these companies.
Who's the bigger money? Investors, just like somebody, they want income streams, because, Nick and I keep talking about the next 10 years, income streams are gold.
So at first, there are individuals, but it's moving very rapidly. Even a couple of years ago, it started moving towards investment groups and hedge funds actually going in and saying, I want these kind of companies. And they have management teams that will go out and buy companies that are in sports and outdoors. They want to buy 5 of these assets in the next 6 months. So let's find the best brands out there. And they communicate with them and try to buy them up. So there's a lot of M&A type of activity happening right now.
Wow, talk about the evolution, because this used to be mom and pop shops galore on Amazon.
Yeah, now you've got like big money coming in. They're not just buying you, they're buying 5 others like you. And they're basically rolling the dice to say which one's going to make it. And they're willing to spend significant multiples in many cases, especially if you have your own list and you have all these other assets.
There is a multiple brands that consist of 60, 70 different sub-brands or mini brands that, is just making pretty significant dents in a e-com space.
There's businesses in e-commerce that focus on buying businesses. That's all they're doing.
I see that now.
They've got a process to make your general, whatever e-commerce business you have, they've got a process, and they have a team in place that can optimize it whatever percent. They know they can multiply your sales in the first 6 months by X percent, and they just look for more businesses that multiply it.
Okay, so give me your wild guess. At the end of this decade, 10 years. 10 years, which in your world is might as well be 100. But at the end of this 10 years, I don't know, give me something. Is it the volume of business, quantity of business, type? What does it look like? No, it's too far out, man. We can't even guess. We can't even guess.
That's too far out.
Okay, so give me 3 years. Okay,
3 to 5 years. I would, so you're looking for, my own business or
anything. Just to give us context.
Our goal is basically to build, to a 8-figure business.
8-figure business within 3 to 5 years.
Yes, yeah, and then exit that business and then go to the other one.
Greg Kowalchuk, that's very cool. That is very cool.
And this is very feasible.
Yeah.
Like right now, when we see the growth and what we are going over from a year to another year, it is really feasible.
So I think what we're going to also see overall is, I don't want to overuse the word of globalization, and Amazon is, I think, a linchpin in this. So it's been happening now for years where, for example, you buy a book in Canada. Buy a book. We're in Canada. You buy a book from .com and it ships from Mississauga. It's like, well, how does that work? Is that allowed? Can you do that? Well, they've been doing it for years. I don't know what agreement they have or how that works, but they've been shipping it from local. Okay, that's neat. Well, they also, as sellers, they also can copy your listings between countries: UK, Germany, Singapore. I just got an email saying, hey, you can put your listings in Singapore now. So they're doing this across international, wider international borders. So I think, like you said about money and Bitcoin or a global currency of some kind, I think Amazon is unifying the world in the logistics system, so that you'll be able to buy something on Amazon. It doesn't matter where, and it'll come from who knows where. It'll just show up. You don't have to worry about currency conversions, shipping times. Everything will just be really fast. It'll just be paid in your currency. There won't be extra fees. I see that as something that's coming very fast. And that's something we saw kind of starting up a few years ago, but I think it's been accelerating. And we're seeing, their back end, Amazon's back end with their infrastructure, the robots having shipping licenses, building airports, and having fleets of cargo planes. All these things lead basically to the same place. They're just going to make the world flat. I'm not a flat earther by any means. I just mean shipping.
But you're making me think that governments are going to lose control here, because the first time in my life there's going to be a corporation that's going to be able to say to the government, we're using this currency to settle our transactions. And again, I'm not trying to turn this into a Bitcoin talk, because I don't think in this particular case, I think Bitcoin's a store of value. It's not a transactional currency, and Amazon's going to clearly need a transactional currency. But behind the scenes, it might be invisible to the consumer. They might be thinking they're paying in Canadian dollars. But behind the scenes, the way you're talking in settlement across countries, they're going to make it settle across countries using some sort of distributed ledger currency. I'm convinced of this. And that's going to be interesting, because then how is stuff taxed at different points? Right. And Amazon will be big enough where they'll be able to point back at the country and say, you now listen to me. And I'm just throwing that out there. I obviously don't have the crystal ball, and I'm not even sure how much I believe in what I just said. I'm just having like a brainstorming session with you guys. But you could see where Amazon gets big enough that, let's say there's a pandemic, and can you imagine, the brilliant leader of Canada, whoever that person is at that time, let's go 10 years. That person's going to point to Amazon and say, Amazon, you do this or you're out. And Amazon's going to turn back and say, well, do you want toilet paper delivered to these people in this country or not? And if you want toilet paper delivered or not, you're listening to us.
So I completely agree with the distributed ledger system. We had talked about this years back about Bitcoin. And I think the ledger system, yes, makes sense technically. And I could see that expanding. And it's already been being used internally in some very large companies, banks. They're using it inside. Not customer facing. People don't need to see the plumbing necessarily for it to be useful. So I think that makes sense. I don't know what the currency will be on the customer side. I don't know that it matters right now, but
it almost doesn't matter.
It's the plumbing that's important. And so this company that I've used to do the transfers, I think they have the right idea. There were some issues with some of how it actually functioned for me.
But you can see the evolution.
But it's there, and they're doing it live with real money. And I used it to send money to China, for example. It worked. So they've got a neat thing happening.
And then you can take Greg's profits when he sells, and he could buy Bitcoin. You might as well start buying some Bitcoin now and just, ride into it. Ease your way into the position, Greg. So Nick and I have been on a bit of a Bitcoin bandwagon for a little bit, but cool. What else? Because we're already passing the hour mark here. What else before we wrap? Anything else we wanted to share here?
No, I think I just had some stats. I think we covered the general idea that people went crazy buying stuff. It then has dipped down though, so it didn't sustain all of the sales, which you might expect. People kind of backed off and said, well, I don't know where my next paycheck or money is going to come from. A lot of people, so they backed off on how much they're buying, but there is more sales happening online still, which is interesting.
How does your training, is it all online right now? Can you give us the details? How does it work? All online, correct?
Yeah, everything.
I know you've been you've been teaching a class for Rockstar Inner Circle members, which we're very grateful for.
It's fun.
You're meeting people here in person.
Yeah,
and we're very grateful. I mean, we feel honored and blessed to be able to tell Rockstar members, hey, listen, you're getting information from people who are actually doing it. Like it's really a big deal for us. So thank you.
It's great to see groups of people that think similarly. It's really amazing. The questions,
powerful.
The questions that come from people that have not had any interaction with e-commerce other than the occasional buying something online. The kind of questions that come back after just a few minutes of us presenting is just amazing. It's really energizing.
It's a different mindset as well. So this is an investor talking, so it's just it's a completely different.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's really energizing. Cool. I mentioned before, I did not realize how much that affected me. That energy coming back, people thinking the same. There's something to it. I don't know what it is.
We're social. Okay, so that's for Rockstar Circle members can secretly get access to you guys through the classes here. Guys, anything else? We're good?
No, just thank you. Thank you for all the opportunities to speak with like-minded people. It's awesome.
Yeah, two-way street. Yeah, we're very grateful. So that's cool. Cool of you to say. Thanks for doing this, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Hey everyone, so hopefully you enjoyed that chat with Greg and Brian. Very thankful that they came on. And if you're listening to this and you want to get started in the real estate investing world and you want to check out what we are doing, the best way to learn from us initially is going to CanadianRealEstateTraining.com. You can register for the next 90-minute free class that we do. We do about once a month. It's www.CanadianRealEstateTraining.com to save your spot. Nick and I are on there live doing the presentation, answering questions at the end. So that's where to go to grab your spot, www.CanadianRealEstateTraining.com. That's it for this episode. Until next time, your life, your terms.